Hi everybody. So this is your video to accompany your moon phase reading that will look something like this, or you may have the green version. And it's just a little bit of an accompanying guide really, to talk you through some of the symbols and information contained within. Sorry that I keep wriggling about, it's the discomfort of mid to late pregnancy. Bear with me as well, my breathing's like getting really shallow lately. Yeah, so basically, so your moon phase reading and guide to the next 12 months. And I'll go really simple, really kind of basic. First page is your name, date of birth and time of birth and place of birth. So it's really important that we have all of these aspects because they all impact your rising sign and the other angles. So your ascendant, descendant, midheaven and Imam Kohli. So the horizon, if you like, that goes across the centre of your birth chart, and then the north to south pole axis, give or take a little bit of a wobble. That's more imagery though, just too much information for it, keep to the point. Okay, this is about making it simple and understandable and digestible. So, as you can see on one of the first pages, there is a list of the houses and what each house relates to. So the houses in astrology are really important because they are the areas of life where we experience things. So for example, the 5th house is children, creativity, how we have fun and where we find our sense of joy. And depending on which sign falls in your 5th house, it represents how you will experience that area of life. And then if you have planets in the 5th house as well, so everybody has a sign, a zodiac sign in the 5th house. If you have planets there as well, then that area of life is more accentuated in this lifetime. If you don't have any planets, it doesn't mean to say that it's not important. It just means that it's not a focal point for you in this lifetime. So there's 12 houses in total, and each house kind of takes you through a journey. So the first house is your front door, if you like, if you imagine it in a physical sense, like a stately home or something. Then you've got your front door, which is your very first impression upon everybody else. It's your physical standing, it's how you look. So imagine your mansion and how you like to portray it to people. Some people might like to make it look a bit shabby and not have it very much on display because they kind of want to hide behind their first house. So this would be representative of something like Scorpio in the 1st house, for example, or Scorpio rising or ascendant. Rising and ascendant are the same thing. Or you might have a really kind of showy front door and a really amazing mansion with, having, when at Christmas time you have a lovely wreath on the front door and lots of colour and joy and vibrance, and that might be like a Leo rising, for example, or Leo in the 1st house. A 2nd house is your talents, your finances. This is a work house, so it's where an astrologer will locate how you earn your money in your lifetime. Again, if you have planets here, then earning money and work will be a big part of your life. If you don't have planets here, it just won't be so much of a focal point. You may find that, spirituality or, health and fitness might be more of your bag, and that work is just a thing that you do because you have to, kind of thing. The 2nd house is also material possessions. It kind of is ruled by Taurus, so it's luxuries and indulgence. It's very sense-based, so it's sight, smell, sounds, touch. Taurus energy is very affected by these things. The 3rd house is communications, language, how you communicate to other people, but also how you take information in from other people. It's a Mercury ruled house. And it's also your local area. so your locality and short journeys. It can also be siblings and cousins and kind of the first friends that you make when you're a child. Excuse me. Fourth house is family, roots, genetic inheritance, your home, kind of the home that you grew up in when you were a child, and kind of how you represent your home now that you're a bit older as well, the kind of things that you have around you. So, for example, I have Virgo in the fourth house, and I like to have lots of books wherever I live, and I like to have easy access to them because Virgo is very information based. It's also a lot to do with health as well, and I really love to have books to do, like cookery books, and books to do with like health and fitness and various like nutrition and things like that. So that's another example for you. The fifth house is creativity, children. It's being in the spotlight. It's your kind of pure heart center, really. So it's all about joy and shining your light, and yeah, kind of being out there in the world and being like, this is me, you know, hello. And again, if you have something like Scorpio in the fifth house, you may find it more difficult to be that kind of, to express that energy, because Scorpio likes to kind of hide and be on the defensive a little bit. And even in close relationships, they can still be a bit kind of guarded. Whereas Aries in the fifth house is just going to be out there, wild, fun. And then we move on to the sixth house, which is another health house and another work house, because this is where our daily routines sit. And it's very much being of service to others. It's also information and looking at the finer details of things. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Looking at the finer details of things and organising. This is a very organising area of life. By the way, these, I believe there's a Houses and a Planets podcast on my podcast list way back at the beginning when I started the podcast. So if you search it, I believe there's one episode that goes through every single planet and its meaning, and then every single house and its meaning as well. So that's a really good thing to listen to alongside looking at your moon reading. Seventh house is marriage, romantic partnerships, business partnerships. It's kind of committed partnerships in general, really. And the seventh house, well, there's a thing called the descendant, which is exactly opposite the ascendant, the rising sign. And this is where we find ourselves through other people. So this is often an area, the descendant is the seventh house cusp, right? So the line that starts the seventh house when it goes up like that. This is the area of life, where we experience life through other people. It's often things that we don't know are conscious to ourselves, unless we do a lot of, deep work and introspection. And it's often an area of the chart where we project as well. So we often find that, we're experiencing certain things through our relationships with others, hence the marriage connection and business partnerships, because it's often that part where we think, oh, well, they're just like this and that's just them kind of thing. And really it's parts of ourselves that we're not willing to admit to. So the seventh house is very interesting. Again, if you have any natal planets here, so Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, the Sun, this will make the seventh house more of an emphasis in your lifetime. The eighth house is next. This is inheritance. It's very deep and hidden. This is kind of Pluto ruled house. So it's, imagine the scorpion in the desert, hiding under the sand and just kind of watching what's happening. Scorpio is very observant, often quite silent, because they are assessing the whole situation, and they're very much coming at life from a life or death standpoint as well. It's very extreme. That's where the intensity comes from, and it's very much about how can I guard myself from death? Basically, it's literally that simple in the eyes of strong Scorpio. It's life and death. There's no middle point. There's no, oh, maybe this will be all right. There's not easy going. So things like sex, death, transformation, birth, and yeah, deep evolution happen in the 8th house. It's quite linked with the occult and you know, the hidden mysteries of life. They're really, it's an area of the chart that's very interested in researching and getting to the bottom of things and unearthing all of the truths. It's very authentic as well. It's very much yeah, a very authentic life experience in the 8th house. So if you have moon in the 8th house, for example, you may be very closed off about your feelings. You don't want other people to see them, but you are very authentic in the way that you do feel towards people, even if they can't necessarily see it. It's not a demonstrative house. Oh, excuse me, my hip's about to pop out of joint. Classic. Right, 9th house, this is higher education, as opposed to college level education, which is the 3rd house. It's a quest for truth, long distance travel, adventure, definitely adventure. This is a Jupiter ruled house, so it's quite jovial, positive, likes to have fun in life, and get out there and see the world. And it can find that there's troubles with focusing on the objective, but that's not the point with the 9th house. The point with the 9th house is the journey that you take. So it may start off that you're planning on going to Jamaica or on some, you know, long haul flight, but actually your flight gets diverted and you end up in Switzerland or something like that. And actually it's the journey that you're having, the people that you're meeting, the languages that you're encountering, and the cultures. 9th house is very much about culture and deep philosophies and learning, you know, new things about these areas of life and wanting to know more about people that are very different to you. Then the 10th house, this is status. It's another work house as well, to go with the 2nd and the 6th house. And this is where we see our achievements in the world. So there's another angle here, not a planet but an angle, which is called the midheaven, or the MC, as it's listed in the moon readings, or abbreviated to, I should say. And this is you out there in the world. And sorry, I thought there was a knock at the door. I'm just doing this video completely ad hoc because I want to get it out to you so that you can start to understand your moon readings a bit more. So yeah, career achievements, and this is what it's a very public area of the chart, because it's at the very top. It's at midday, you know, 12 o'clock. If the chart were a clock, it's 12 o'clock. And this is where kind of people see you for what you've achieved so far and continue to achieve. So it's a positive house and very linked with career and work. The 11th house, this is friends, groups. It's very humanitarian. It's very individualistic. This is ruled by Uranus, so this is you know, not being a sheep. This is very much being out there on your own and being unique and having unique ideas as well. And the 11th house is very much about seeing into the future, having ideas light years beyond your, you know, present existence. Does that make sense? So, for example, years ago, I remember my mum saying to me, about vacuum cleaners, that wouldn't it be great if there was one that would just like roam around the floor and do it automatically, that you don't have to get involved with. And like, I still remember the first time I saw one of those robot vacuum cleaners that just, you know, they even go underneath the furniture now, don't they? And you just set it to whatever and it knows the dimensions of your room. And that, like, I think she had this idea in like the early 90s. So it's very much seeing beyond your present situation. leaping into the future. Very inspiring house. The 12th house, this is again another humanitarian house, because this is like the ending of the house cycle. So we've had the first house where we're looking at the front door, and the 12th house is leaving the mansion again, and merging back with the stars and where we came from. This is why it's a very spiritual house. It's all about reconnecting with energy. It's not to do with material possessions, it's to do with spirituality, dreams, escapism. It's very creative, quite musical. So if you had, for example, Neptune in the 12th house, that'd be very musical, a good musician placement, for example. And it's very idealistic as well. If you have strong moon in the 12th house, for example, this would be very strong dream life for you. Dreams would be very significant to you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next page, and these are all just abbreviations that I've made of the planets to keep them simple, and then a brief explanation. And then we've got zodiac signs as well, and a brief explanation. Okay, and then the aspects key. This is probably where I've taken the readings a bit too far by adding in the aspects, but the most important thing about the moon readings, let me just say, is the house placement of the new moon and the full moon each month. It's the house placement that will really help you access what it is you are trying to understand, from where the transiting moon, so the new moon or the full moon that month, is landing in your natal birth chart. I actually put something up about this on my stories on Instagram today, just about transits and aspects. And it gets a bit complicated, but it doesn't need to be complicated, and that's why I'm hoping that this video will help unearth some of that. So the aspects are, if you have, you do have natal planets, the aspects is all key is all about linking where the new moon or full moon and the sign that is in that month, where it's making links with your natal planets in your birth chart. So I've included some of the more commonly used and referred to aspects, which are the conjunction, which is just an asterisk symbol, if you can see that, the trine, which is a triangle, sextile, which is a big X or a kiss, and opposition, which is a naught and then a dash and then another naught. They're fairly close to the traditional symbols. I was just trying to make a key that would work well from the word processing program that I have. Okay, and then the next page is the list of the new moons. And then this section just underneath is the date of the new moon, the degree of the new moon, and the zodiac sign that that's in, and then the house that that's going to fall in for you. And then underneath is the brief description of what that house entails. So that's the most important part, is looking at the house placement of the new moon or the full moon, because every new moon, as I've written in the beginning, if you've read through the introductory information, every new moon is a great time for sowing seeds, setting new intentions, and bringing your manifestation dreams into reality. But it's the very start point, whereas the full moon is the completion and the results point. And it's linking to the houses, linking to the houses as to see where these seeds of intention are beginning, or where you might be seeing them now completing, having started them at the previous new moon 6 months prior, or if you're just starting on a new moon journey now, and you'll see the culmination coming up in 6 months' time. So it's always interesting to look backwards, look forwards, and also look at the present. So the new moon and full moon are very much about what's happening presently, but linking, you know, the future and the past as well. And the whole point of the moon is that her energy is so strong and so effective upon us emotionally that it links our intuition and our spirituality and our wants and desires to the physical world, or the mental world, or the emotional world, depending on you know, which zodiac sign the new moon or full moon is in, so that we can help manifest our dreams, which is just so exciting. And this is something that I learned about maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. And that's the thing about astrology, there's constantly evolving layers, which just add more and more to it. So for example, I mean, this is from last year, but on the 15th of November, there we go, we had a new moon at 23 degrees of Scorpio in my 5th house, which is also to do with children, creativity, and having fun. Okay, actually it's probably important that we go back to this chart here. So underneath the new moons list, again, is all of the information, and at the very beginning, underneath the house title, it's the number of the house. That is the first piece of information that appears. After this is the aspects key. So for example, let me go through mine. Let's just fold this up. So here we have, can you see that? 4th house, trine. So you go to the aspects key and you look up what the symbol is here. Trine, CH, which is Chiron, and then ME, which is Mercury. And Chiron and Mercury are listed. It's because I've abbreviated everything to my own kind of system. It's not like a universal system, which is possibly why some of this is a bit confusing. And then, yeah, in here, you can see, we go back to the earlier pages of the planets, Chiron, or CH is listed here, Chiron, and what Chiron stands for. So the mythology of Chiron is that the wounded healer. Old wounds may surface, heal, reflect self-care and self-acceptance. And then Mercury, listed here, Mercury, communications, information, ideas, studying, fact gathering, siblings, local travel, discussion, and humour. So that's all there. Okay, I mean, so my Chiron and my Mercury are all in certain signs as well. So it's linking energies to those signs as well, which is what the aspects do. But I think that is just taking the reading beyond what it needs to be, and perhaps I should have left the aspects out, but it's to give you a flavour of what sort of depth we would go into if you were going to have a longer reading, because these readings do take quite a lot of time. They take me about an hour and a half to gather the information up, and then it takes my bookbinder he's never told me amount of time actually, but quite some time to he does the formatting as well. So I send him a document, he formats it all on some design program that I don't understand how to use, and then he prints it out and does the binding, and he designs the covers and has those printed as well. So, you know, it all takes quite some time, and I would love to include every single piece of information in here, but it would take too long, which is why I put in the aspects and what the aspects stand for and what each planet stands for. But I haven't taken it further than that because I just think it can be a bit overwhelming, confusing. And then on the final pages, there's the full moon list, times, dates, degrees, zodiac signs. So my suggestion to you would be to find, let's have a look. When's the next full moon? Okay, so the next full moon that we have coming up is, at the time of recording this, is a full moon in Leo. Here we go, January 2021, full moon in Leo, 8 degrees in my second house, and it's opposing the sun. So you would look up in the aspects key, what does an opposition stand for, which is tension between two or more planets, barriers, obstacles, because an opposition is literally two polar opposites tussling for, you know, top place in your psychological experience, basically. And then, oh, I've lost it now. So the full moon of Leo is opposing my sun, and the full moon of Leo will be opposing my 9th house, because my sun is in the 9th house. No, but that's taking it too far again, isn't it? Sorry, you don't need to know that. Oh, sorry, this is also ad lib. So you don't need to know that specifically, you just need to know that it's opposing your sun, and you would look up what does the sun stand for in my chart, and back at the earlier pages. So life, force, pure self, heart, joy. You think, okay, so this month I'm going to be experiencing a full moon, so that's heightened emotions, a completion cycle, can feel very intense emotionally and overwhelming, but also can bring results and emotional rewards, as well as practical rewards, depending on where it's landing in your birth chart and the zodiac sign. And it's, sorry, the light breathing, shallow breathing. It means that that full moon is in tussle with my sun, so my life force is being opposed by the full moon, which is in the sign of life force, and because my sun, yeah, it's about the interplay between this. So the moon and the sun, with the full moon, it's always opposing the sun, and then if it's opposing your natal sun anyway, it just means that this is, whereas the new moon is always traveling exactly with the sun, which is why it has all that extra potent energy for manifesting, and the full moon is opposing, so it's always a kind of, it's an end point and an opposition, but it can be a bit of a tussle between the energies. I hope that explains it properly. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Somebody, I don't know if it's in the physical moon readings, but if you've got one of the downloads, then every new moon I put again, it's with my symbols, abbreviations, I've put a, what do you call that, bracket, just literally to symbolise the image of the new moon. It doesn't mean anything grammatically, it's just an image. That's at the beginning of each new moon description, and then on the full moon ones I've just put a 0 to represent a full moon. Again, it's just a symbol, it doesn't mean anything, but that should just be on the digital downloads, not in the actual book. Is there anything else I need to tell you? Perhaps I'll put some questions up on Instagram and you can send me a message if you want to know anything else. So it's a personalised reading, and it's like a what is that word? Learning guide. And it's really to be used in conjunction with the podcast episodes, so that you can listen to the podcast episodes, which unearths more about what signs the new and full moons will be in, if they're interacting with any other planets in the sky currently, and then it's like linking all of that to your birth chart. So what I've done in the readings is that I've linked the transiting moons for the next 12 months to all of your natal information, which is why each reading is individual and takes quite some time to do. And then it's for you to kind of do a bit of detective work and make the links between what sign the new moon is in, and then which house that's falling in. So the houses are all listed, obviously. And then if you want to take it further, and then researching into what that house symbolises, the area of life that it means, and then working either with new moon energies or full moon energies to bring about your greatest intentions in this lifetime. And I really genuinely believe that I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and it has really changed my life. And I find it really positive that each fortnight, in fact, because we have a new moon or a full moon once a fortnight, that there's always something to look forward to, or something to kind of be like, oh, not sure how this is going to play out, and something to focus on. And I think during kind of busy lives, as we lead these days, it's really helpful to keep some kind of spiritual focus. And definitely for me, this is one of the things that this moon reading does for me. And I just noticed as well that mine's going to run out in the middle of this year, because I started doing these in the summer of last year with Phil Powney. He's on Instagram. He's the bookbinder, if you want to follow him. Really excellent friend of mine from school days, high school. And yeah, and I realised that I've only got 6 months of 2021 listed for me, so I'm going to get another one done. But I really hope that helps explain some of the symbolism and some of the possibly complicated abbreviations that I've made to try and connect everything. It was more of a kind of real urge to share as much information as possible, to then allow you to go on and do finer research into your birth chart, but keeping it at an affordable price, so that you've got all of the information, and then you've got some descriptions and explanations, but you can expand it beyond the reading if you want to. I'm always available to answer messages on Instagram or emails. If things don't make sense, that's really important to let me know, because I'd love to make this accessible to people, and that's the whole point. And yeah, I really want these moon readings to make sense to people.